Every 5 years, there's a Chopin piano competition in Poland. They call it the Olympics of piano contests. And I only know about it because 5 years ago, the guy who won it, it's a 23-year-old from Montreal. And so a couple of months ago, when I heard this thing was happening again, I decided to check it out online because there was a buzz for another Canadian, a 20-year-old from Calgary. So this time around, the judges said they had such a hard time judging, trying to whittle down the hundreds of applicants down to 11 finalists, and then who to give the 8 prizes out to. In the end, that kid from Calgary came in second. But there was great judging controversy. My take is that there seems to be a split between the judges who want Chopin played the way Chopin has always been played, and then the judges who were excited about players who brought a fresh take on the music. So apparently, even with famous 200-year-old music masterpieces, there are musicians looking for ways to innovate, to make an old song sound new. Our song today is called by the first line, Sing to the Lord a New Song. It's an invitation to make some new noise of praise and worship that is a fresh expression to God. So this is the hairpole lane your worship leaders go through every week, trying to find new songs to sing so our worship doesn't become stale. It's the thing we did, do you remember, during COVID, when people leaned out the window, banging pots and pans. Now, I don't know whose idea it was, but somebody innovated a sound that would be an appropriate appreciation and encouragement to the doctors and nurses working around the clock, caring for COVID patients. And that song caught on. The book of Psalms is actually in 5 sections, 5 books. Psalm 98 is in section 4, book 4, which is the song book for public worship for ancient Israel. And we might ask, what was the occasion that called for a new song? What just happened that inspired the need for a new song to sing to God? The psalmist doesn't say exactly. In fact, on the surface, it doesn't have much theological information. There's no deep meditation on God's character or comparing his God with other gods or things like that. It's a very easy Bible study. He simply tells us that he sees God working in the world, and he feels the need for a soundtrack, a new one, to go with what he sees. You know, that's a good day for us, Christians, when we can say what he does in verse 2. The Lord has made his salvation known and revealed his righteousness. The psalmist feels loved and God's faithfulness, and he just wants to sing about it. So, is this you today? What new mercy, what new miracle, new joy might have you looking for a new song to sing? In the opening line, the psalmist talks about God's holy arm of salvation. This is how poets talk about victory. God's arms of salvation is the expression, the picture of victory. We don't know when the psalm was written or even who wrote it. It could have been one of King David's or one of his court musicians. And David, being the winningest king who was really good in battle, I imagine there were many opportunities when they needed a new anthem for the parade when he comes back from war having gotten victory. Now, while we don't know when the psalm was composed, we know when the songbook was put together. It was that confusing time, a few hundred years before Jesus, when the ancient Jewish people were trying to recover from the worst thing ever happened to them, when they were conquered by a foreign empire and the people were exiled from their land and trucked all over the empire as slaves and servants. The song for that horrible experience was Psalm 137. By the rivers of Babylon we sat and wept and wept. How can we sing the songs of the Lord while in a foreign land? May my tongue cling to the roof of my mouth if I don't remember you. Do you feel the gut-wrenching sadness there? But also the irony, right? He's singing about a new song. He's singing a new song about not being able to sing. They were so homesick, they couldn't bear to sing the old songs. Maybe there's a song you love that you just cannot bear to listen to anymore because it reminds you of something painful, someone you loved and lost, and you drop that from the soundtrack of your life. The soundtrack of the Babylonian ordeal was a song about not being able to sing. But now they're back in their land, thanks to the Persian king, and a new song is called for, and as they get at the task of rebuilding. But what would that song sound like? What would be the emotional tone of that new song, especially when they discovered that back at home, life was not the same as before? The bluster of the good old days was gone. They didn't know why, didn't know how to fix it, except to continue to put their hope in God, to cry out for God to make things right. So the last verse suggests a celebration they're preparing for when he says, God will judge the world in righteousness. It hasn't happened yet. Salvation has not yet come. So we have a psalm held together by the two holy arms of God's salvation. What he's done in the past, in the present, and what he will do in the future, because he is a faithful God who keeps promises. The same two arms that holds and anchors our lives. They are so confident of the life that is coming because of what they believed about God, God who is their lover and the epitome of faithfulness. So this psalmist is getting the room ready for the party. It's like pregnant parents decorating the baby's room or Japanese women saving up for the wedding. The psalm, it's about preparing for the victory parade. The composer, with paper balls everywhere as he works on the score for the new anthem, he's booking the band and he's holding choir practice. It's going to be a huge spectacle like the Olympics ceremonies. The day when God does the thing he says he would, to fix what's bent in the world, and the world can finally breathe a sigh of relief and party. Today is the 23rd Sunday after Pentecost. This is the second last Sunday of the worship year before the beginning of a new one. So it's a fitting time to look at the year that we've had in our life with God and each other for signs of what God has done, what he's doing, but also what we need him to do for us, for what we know is coming in the new year, and the surprises and challenges that we don't coming at us around the corner. So it's a good time to be thinking about a new song for the next worship year. So here's a prayer for the 23rd Sunday. Let's pray that together. God who is faithful, when all the foundation crumble in the time of crisis, as holy places fall and nations stumble, give us the conviction to bear witness to your love, whatever the cost. Through Jesus Christ, your word and wisdom. Amen. So this new song, what do you think it sounds like? What's the mood of it? Is it a jig, something you tap your toes to, or something sort of pulls on the heartstrings because it's a song for waiting? You know, one of the most insightful moments in movie history to me was in The Prince of Egypt. the Steven Spielberg's cartoon about the Exodus story. When Moses finally got the Hebrew slaves free from the tyranny of the Pharaoh, the soundtrack of the caravan coming out of Egypt wasn't a march, it wasn't a victory hymn, and it wasn't a jig. It was this kind of a slow anthem with a bit of a drag. Because life, after the big struggles, the really hard battles, they take so much out of us. It's such a long slog that when it's finally over, everybody is just exhausted. The joy of this kind of hard-fought victories is not so much happy, but just relief and gratitude for how God kept us in the fight. Chopin is like the patron saint of music in Poland. And as I watched the competition, I noticed there's this aura of reverence and adoration from the audience, and I started to wonder what the fuss is all about. So it turns out Chopin is a big deal, because even though he cut his musical teeth playing Bach and Mozart, his heroes, somehow his soul was always looking for a new sound, a new musical language. So he kind of led the transition from the classical era to the romantic era and influenced many after him to follow. Somebody describes his music as an exquisite chromatic garden, one of the greatest important evolution in the harmonic language of music. And what he gave to the music world was a new sound to express the love and pain of being human, the peaks and valleys of life that is thrilling and sad and always a bit out of control. Maybe that's why he generally stayed away from the concert halls. He preferred to play in the more intimate setting of dance halls and living rooms. He made music so regular people could participate by moving their bodies. And instead of crowds, he played to the person sitting closest to the piano. His music is not easy to play. One critic recommends Chopin for people with distorted fingers. It's kind of like physio, he says, to correct crooked joints. But for people with normal fingers, they should stay away, he says, or they may need a really good hand surgeon. But it's interesting watching these young 16 and 20-something-year-old pianists from all over the world playing Chopin. They play like their hearts were bleeding. And it made me wonder, what reservoir of life experiences do they draw from when they play? Chopin died when he was 39. He spent half his life battling tuberculosis. At the time, it was the reason for 1/4 of all the deaths, and it was 100 years before they had a cure. It was a horrible, highly contagious disease they call consumption. They eat you from the inside, starting with the lungs. It was the long COVID of the 1800s. They think he might have caught it from his sister when he was 19. His sister died right away, whom he was very close to, as did a lot of his close friends. And they wondered over the 20 years of Chopin's life carrying this disease, how many piano students he might have unknowingly infected during lessons. In the last round of the competition, every finalist had to play his Polonaise Opus 61. It's an innovative piece that is not like anything he's written before. People still argue about how it's supposed to be played. But it was one of his last compositions from the last 3 years of his life when he was living in Paris, too sick to walk up a flight of stairs, and nursing a broken heart from a love affair turned sour. This was a man always looking for a new song. He lived through 2 revolutions, one in his homeland, Poland, watching as a teenager living in France, and then the French Revolution in the last couple of the years of his life. There was the cholera epidemic in the middle of his life, and his music was the soundtrack to all of this. A new song for every heartbreak and every triumph, like a soldier's journal entries, to mark the moments on life's battlefield. So, what battles are you fighting at this moment? The psalmist lifts our eyes to the party at the end of the story. The joyful ending has already been written. That's us on the podium holding our trophy. We're just playing out the clock now. The band has already started playing. It's what the kids call garbage time at the end of the game because we have already won. The other night at dinner, my mom told a story that reminded me of the hymn, It Is Well With My Soul. My mom turned 86 this year, and her life has been filled with lots of adventures and lots of losses. And it started in the most dramatic way. Shortly after she was born in 1939, war broke out in Hong Kong. So to get her to safety, her dad strapped her to her nanny and handed my grandmother a sack of money and then put him on one of 7 steamers fleeing Hong Kong to go to Shanghai. Her ship was the only one of the 7 that made it. So in 1939, me standing here, there was a 14% chance. That hymn, It Is Well With My Soul, is also born of shipwreck. Horatio Spafford was a lawyer and businessman living in Chicago on the other side of the world from Chopin around the same time. And he too had his share of woes, having to navigate the Chicago Great Fire in 1871 and then the recession that followed. But no challenge compared to losing his 4 daughters on one day. His wife and daughters were traveling to England when their ship collided with another one. His wife was among the only survivors. So what did he feel when he got news of that accident? Or when he got a telegram from his wife that read, "Saved, alone"? But Spafford was a man of faith. When he himself got on a ship to go to his grieving wife in England, and when his ship passed the spot where he lost his daughters, a new song came to him. "It is well with my soul," he wrote. That in one of the most heartbreaking moments of his life, he leaned into God, into those 2 holy arms of God holding him, reminding him that God is in control and death is not the end. And he felt himself comforted enough to make some new noise about how God anchors him, whatever happens. I've been reading this Christian philosopher, and she wrote about refusing to surrender to despair. The despairing man says, it is too late. And this too late carries with it an implicit denial of God's creative power, a forgetting that he who has created us out of nothingness has not abandoned us and remains a creator. Too late ignores the eternal renewal of the generous creativity of God. So take a moment, begin a conversation with God, and then we're going to make some noise. soul. It is well, it is well with my soul. Though Satan should buffet, should trial should come, let this blessed assurance control, that Christ has regarded my helpless estate, even so, and on blood for my soul. It is well with my soul. It is well, it is well with my soul. And Lord, haste the day when my face shall be sight, the clouds be rolled back as the scroll, the drum shall resound, and the Lord shall descend. Even so, it is well with my soul. It is well with my soul. It is well